Today on Cody's Corner Garage, I want to do something a little different. It's warming up, snow's starting to melt, and I got about 10, 12 projects on the go-ish. So I'm going to do a project car roundup today. Well, car, truck, van, bike, snowmobile. Anyway, we're doing a project roundup, okay? I got lots of projects. So, yeah, let's dig into it. I'll show you what I got. So what I got here is my favorite vehicle, my C10. It's a 1984, and it's very, very special to me. See, my grandfather bought this truck brand new. Now, I've been around it a long time. This was actually the first real vehicle, that I ever drove. So, when I was about, I don't know, I must have been 14 or 15 years old, he sold it. And I really wanted it, but he said it needed too much work for me to handle and that I'd be better off getting something else. So, when I was about 20, 21, I went and tracked this thing down, found it in a barn, got it running, drove it home, tore the complete front end out of it, rebuilt it, and then I took it on a road trip. I don't know how many kilometers it would have been, but I drove from my hometown to the city that I was currently living in, which was about 3 hours away, loaded up everything I owned in the back of it, and drove to the next city that I was going to live in, which was another 3 hours away. And this is after, I only drove it about half an hour before that. So just so you know, I've always been doing this kind of stuff. Anyway, we'll get you a look inside here. So, this thing might look pretty beat on the inside, but you know what? All this stuff is like a time capsule for me, because this truck, despite how aged it is, other than the steering wheel, the inside of it's exactly the same as I remember it when I was a kid. So, yeah, the dash is cracked and there's a wood screw and a penny washer holding the armrest on, and this is all worn off, but that's how I remember it, and that's how it's going to stay. So, my plans with this thing is basically last summer, I was on my way home from a road trip, and I'm pretty sure I cooked the rear end in it. Might have got a little excited at my brother's kid's gender reveal. Yeah, that could have had something to do with it. Not sure. Anyway, so my plan is to re-gear and put a posi in it. And that's basically all this needs to go back on the road for this year. By the way, I'm never painting this truck. Ever. Don't worry. It's been in this scheme for going on a decade now, and it has not changed at all. Everybody says you got to clear coat it to keep it from rotting and all this. No, you don't. Just keep it out of the salt. It's fine. And don't store it under a tarp. Bad. Even though I've done it, but don't do it. Next up, we're going to look at a vehicle you've already seen, the dirt cheap Jetta. This car is kind of a funny story for me too. See, I'm the one that found this car for my friend. he bought it really cheap from a guy that I now know a little bit. Anyway, he had it for well over a year, and then he decided he didn't want it anymore. Didn't run, needed way too much work. So I was going to buy it from him. Now, a while later, he decided he wanted to buy a snowmobile for me. So I said, why don't we just trade? I only had $150 into the snowmobile. So that's what I got into this, basically. Plus the fuel for towing it the first time, because I did that as a favor. So I got basically nothing into it. Now my plans are for this car, big plans. I'm not going to announce all of it right now. But I want to see how cheaply I can get a daily driver out of an old car. And I mean like a reliable, drive it anywhere, don't worry about it, everything's good car. And I plan to have this road legal, on the road, reliable, daily driving it for less than $500. Now I've kind of already done that with the car I'm going to show you in a minute. But I'm going to go even cheaper with this one at first. Then we're going to see if we can just spruce it up a little bit on a budget. So that's my plans for this car. I'll get you in here and show you a little more. So it's a 1986 Jetta turbo diesel. It's pretty beat. Inside of it's missing a bunch of stuff. You know, we're not going to worry too much about that. My plans for this car, like I said, is to get it daily driving super cheap. And then try and make it look more respectable, I guess. As much as you can for a 86 Jetta. You know, can we fix this and not have this going on, and maybe put some wheels on it that at least match? That kind of stuff. So hopefully this all goes according to plan, but you never know. I always find way more stuff wrong after I dig into these old cars, so we'll see what happens. Which brings us to this. My 1985 Jetta. Also a diesel, not turbo. Very slow. This is my current daily driver, and it is also in very horrible shape. I mean, it looks okay-ish. It has a nice patina, but the patina went a little too far in some places, if you know what I mean. So we're going to be doing some work to this at some point, just to, you know, try and keep it on the road a few more years. I don't know how much longer it's got in it, but you basically can't kill these cars other than rust. So if we fix the rust, we'll keep driving it, you know? So that's this car in a nutshell. Basically the same idea as the other one, I just have it as a super cheap daily driver. By the way, these cars are fully mechanical and can get 50 miles per gallon, which is good. You know, fuel's expensive now. So, yeah. Next up, the bane of my existence. I have struggled with this car for years, and I just finally got it figured out. Okay? So actually, my wife is taking this for her first drive, and, well, she drove it once last summer, but it broke down, so I'm not going to include that. This is the first real drive in years, okay? It's been parked for a while. Had some mechanical issues. Finally got it figured out. So, next up, we're going to be fixing this. See, there's supposed to be a tow hook right here, where that big gaping hole is right now. So, I'm going to leave it to your imagination what happened there. And then we're going to try and change this stripe to something else and put different wheels on it. But that's all easy stuff. The exhaust needs to be completely redone. Interior could be cleaned up a little bit. And the roof is, well, it's not really roofing anymore, you know? She's kind of... Someone tried to fix this with some kind of window caulking, and I gotta give them credit, it doesn't leak, but it's... yeah. Anyway, so that's this car. Another project. This one's actually not mine, though, so I fix it for my wife. Oh, man, this is a comfortable car. This, you've already seen a handful of times, is probably the nicest car I own. Honestly. Like, it's rough, but it's very, very nice. So, you've already seen this a whole bunch on the channel if you've been following along. And basically, this was a taxi in Iran for most of its life. It's a 68 Mercedes. The guy I got it from swapped an OM616 naturally aspirated diesel into it, which made it very slow, but I do like diesels. You can probably catch on to that by now. So, this car basically is getting close to ready for the road. I have some rust repair to do and a little bit of wiring. And then it's pretty much there. And then I can start worrying about things like this wood that's got some kind of... I don't know if that's mold or lichen or what it is. But that has to have something done with it. You know, these are broken. This is coming apart. I don't even know what this is. That's missing. You know, we just fix a little stuff. And then these seat belts as well. I have never seen a seat belt like this in my life. I don't know if this is some European thing. If there's anyone from Iran watching, if this is your creation, let me know. Is there supposed to be a safety pin or something to hook this? Am I missing a piece? I have no idea what's going on with this. So, I might put a lap belt setup in it, maybe. You know, just little extra safeties. I love the horn in this thing. Okay, on to the next one. I really don't want to get out of this. It's so comfortable. But it smells like mold. Okay, off we go. Next up is my work pig. This thing is a 91 Suburban R2500. Now, don't get confused. All that means is it's a two-wheel drive 2500. They did some weird naming stuff from 88 to 91. 87 to 91 maybe? I don't know. Anyway, they did some weird naming stuff, but this R is C, okay, and V is K. You follow? Okay, alphabet things. Anyway, it's a 91 R2500, which means it's a 3/4 ton. It's got a 6.2... That guy was moving. Anyway, it's got a 6.2 diesel. I know, half of you just said, bleh! Listen, they're reliable as hell. They got good mileage. And they're not a powerhouse. That's fine. This is not a race car. I don't drag race this particular vehicle. So we don't need 600 horsepower. Okay? They used to tow, you know, boats and all of your food and stuff with single barrel 6-cylinders. So this is fine. Okay? Anyway, this is a little bit weird because this is the only year that I know of that you could get a square body with a factory 4L80E. which in this case doesn't work properly. So I've basically been driving this as a 3-speed the entire time I've owned it. I have an NV4500 out of a newer truck, and I think that's going to end up in this at some point, because I would really love to have a 5-speed in this. It's also got a 373 rear axle, and it's a G80, and it hasn't blown up yet, so I'm going to leave it alone. Also, it's got hydro boost brakes that are leaking and just do whatever they want sometimes, so I'll have to fix that. And it's got a severe amount of rust in the back, which means that I'll probably weld half a barbecue into it or something. So that's this thing in a nutshell. Let's move on to the next one. What you see behind me is my collection of Volkswagen vans. This one's a good one. This one will run and drive and move, but it's pretty rusty, needs a bunch of work. And this one can be put back on the road. That one has no engine. It's way rustier, but it has some good pieces. The front axle is mint. I don't know why, because the rest of it's complete garbage. It's got some good glass in it. It's got, handles and headlights and tail lights, and we can pull some parts off that. So that's a parts van. This orange one over here is also a parts van. It has basically no body panels left, but it does have a complete original engine and transmission, plus another engine, plus a case for another engine, plus seats. So there's some stuff in here we can use. I think there's still a gas tank in it. Lots of parts, basically. So my plan here is to basically make one good van out of 3 terrible ones, if that makes any sense. By the way, old appliances make great patch panels. Nice and flat, easy to bend. They last a good 2 months in the winter, so that's fine. Yeah, hang on to your old appliances when they break, because you're going to need them for floor pans. Okay. What we got here is something I'm going to pretty much guarantee you've never heard of. This is a 1974 Playcat camper. Playcat. Yeah. I never heard of them either. But apparently they made campers, snowmobiles, mini homes, trailers. I don't know. They made a bunch of stuff, and then they got sued and went out of business for some reason. So they're pretty rare. You don't find them very much. They were made in Drummondville, Quebec, and they're pretty neat. I'll get you inside here and show you. So, as you can imagine, it's a bit of a mess in here right now, but with it being the winter, but this is what it looks like on the inside. That folds down into a bunk bed. This goes out flat into a bed. That's a bathroom. It actually does have a toilet in it. Fridge, freezer, heater, stovetop, cupboards, cabinets, drawers, sink, air fryer. What more do you need in a camper? It's got a radio. You can listen to the hoedown on the speakers. Needs an antenna though. Doesn't work very good. Anyway, so yeah, it's a small camper, but it's got literally everything you need. Now, last year, me and my wife took this, hauled it behind the Suburban all the way to Maine, and went to a Stevie Nicks concert, and then went to Bar Harbor and a couple other places. and it lasted great the whole time. The only things we really had to do to it was we put down some new flooring, and I'll show you what else we did. This entire back corner, especially right in this area, had the wood just, well, it wasn't wood anymore, it was like a sponge. So we had to peel back this trim down the corners, both sides, peel back the siding, put new wood in, nail it all together, and then close it back up and put the trim back on. The trim is actually what holds everything together on these, which is kind of, I don't like it. So I made my own design where I also spliced in a piece of aluminum down the whole side of it to draw all the boards in tight. So it's got the boards screwed together, and then the aluminum screwed to the boards, and then the trim screwed to all of it. So it's like you can move the whole trailer by that corner now. If I had done that before, I would have fell right into the bed. Also, taillights didn't work, so this was like a 5-minute fix before we left on the last trip. So I mean, it works, so I'm going to call that good enough. So if we do anything with this, if we do any big road trips or anything this summer, you might see it getting towed behind probably the Suburban, and probably breaking down and getting fixed, and that's what usually happens. So last time you seen this rig, I was robbing parts off it in a snowbank. I don't like doing that. This was a working machine, so I kind of felt bad. So at some point, before next winter maybe, I'd like to try and get this running again. Which means we're going to have to find more parts, because I used those parts on another machine that needed parts. So I don't have the parts. So we need parts. That's what I'm saying. Anyway. If you leave these snowmobiles sitting, don't leave the tracks right on the ground. See, I have this one sitting on the neighbor's kid's swimming pool from last summer that broke. So that's fine. Also, don't leave your keys in them because they freeze. Now, that was part of the reason I didn't get this one running this winter. Although I could have just unhooked the key switch, but the hood was also frozen shut at most of the winter, so I just... Anyway, yeah, this is my $50 Elan. So it's kind of a Johnny Cash special. It's got a moto ski hood. The chassis is an early 70s, I think. The engine was put together out of used parts like years ago, and I put a gasket kit. And what is poking into my head? Get out of here. So yeah, the engine was a bunch of used parts with new gaskets and bearings, and a scuffed piston and rings that I Scotch-Brighted, and it all got put back together. And it ran good for like 6 years, and then I got the BOA skis, and I just kind of neglected this one. And then robbed parts off of it, and now it doesn't run. So we'll have to fix that. So this, what's under here, I'm not even going to tell you. See, I'm saving this one. It's a surprise. You'll see it later, I promise. But you'll like it. Like, stick around, because this, like, look, it's big. You're going to like it, okay? Okay. You've already seen the BOA skis. I'm not going to go into too much detail on those, but here they are. There's 2 whole videos about these if you want to go see them. All you need to know is this one is exactly the way it was at the end of the last video. I've driven it a few times, but nothing different. This one needs another carb rebuild for some reason. I rebuilt it. It worked great. I got it home from that show. Realized the secondary clutch was kind of sticky, so I fixed that. Took it out for a test drive, and it started flooding. So I don't know. Anyway, that'll get fixed. I might not record it because you've seen that carb come apart and off of there and in pieces 27,000 times already, so I might just throw that in a snowbank at this point. Anyway, I'll probably fix it, but the snow's, it's going, so you'll see this next year, probably, in about the middle of January when I want to go for a drive on it, because I'll forget. Anyway, that's that. And I think this is maybe the last project I'll talk about today. When I was a kid, I had one of these, and I always wanted to put an engine on it. But I was like 10, so I didn't. So, now that I'm older, and I have the means and the know-how, and let's put an engine on one. I traded a toolbox for this that I picked up off the side of the road for nothing. So I have nothing into it. So, my plan is to basically cut there, and there-ish, and maybe that. Take all that out. Flat plate here, mount the engine on it, get rid of all the old bicycle stuff. Put a motorcycle wheel and tire on the back if I can, maybe. Different seat. That's just to make it look like it has a gas tank. I'll probably use something else. I'll keep the crank in it, but I'll rotate the other pedal forward and then weld them in place so I have something to rest my feet on. Basically, we're making a little mini bike out of this. I don't know if I'm going to go with like, what I really want is a horizontal shaft V-twin, but those are really hard to find and expensive. So it'll probably get like a 5-horse Briggs flathead or something that's dirt cheap that I already have 20 of. So yeah, this is kind of just a childhood dream project that now I'm finally getting to put together. Anyway, you might see this on the channel. By the way, my buddy over on the Red Nectar channel already built a mini bike. So this might be a collaborative video between the two of us coming up. Not sure. If it is, you'll see it. I might also do a video on this. It's just an old TBI 350, but a lot of you guys have never seen an engine completely torn down. So this engine's just scrap. It's no good. So I might just tear it all apart just to give you guys an idea of what the inside of an engine looks like for those who haven't seen it and want to see it. Let me know in the comments if that's something you'd like to see. And then, of course, there's the garage itself, which, as you can see, is not finished. This has been an ongoing project for me for quite some time now, and I'd like to try and finish it up this summer, but the price of stuff is just up so high right now that I don't know. We'll have to see. Basically, all I need is the insulation. I've already got the drywall, and I can get the vapor barrier easy enough. So I'm just kind of waiting on the price of insulation to come down a little bit. And then, I don't know if that's something you guys want to watch, is just a time-lapse kind of thing of me putting the garage together. It also needs to be really cleaned up. My plan is to take this whole wall right over this window and just put shelving from floor to ceiling all the way up. And that's a 14-foot wall. So that'd be lots of shelving. And then I'm also going to have shelving around the entire back of the shop. So my workbench will move up here. And then the compressor will sit up there out of the way. And that TV is going to get mounted to that post right there with a swivel, so I can watch it up there. I can swing it out here. So yeah, the shop itself needs some work, which is another huge, huge project that I've been working on. There she goes on her first drive of the year. Good luck! Well, that'll do it for this roundup of all my different projects. If you want to see more of them, let me know which one you want to see first. And consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell. That'll keep you updated every time I put out some new content. Yeah. So you can see I've got a lot of projects and I've got a lot to do, so we'll see you next time.